And
So.
Derek Cooper may be your closer, Rod. So I think whichever one of these backs gets more run, it's going to your point, it's gonna be the guy that's the more complete back.
Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to Football Theory. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Pleased to be joined by my good friend, esteemed colleague, and fellow football theorist, my man Jeff Howe. And this version of Football Theory brought to you by Laura Baker, the accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker. We'll give you a little bit more information about Laura and a message from Laura Baker coming up a little bit later on in this program. But first, let's get to the topic, Jeff. I want to get into something Sark said. It was a quote from the media availability he had earlier this week when he was asked about the transfers coming in who were expected to be obviously immediate impact players for Texas. And he said, quote, "They're all still developmental players because in our program, we believe in development. And it's not just the player, it's the person. It's all respects of him. And I think we've been more intentional as a staff. And I think we're kind of reaping some of the benefits of that early on. And basically went on to say if they were finished products, they'd be in the NFL draft. They're not finished products. That's why they're here to take their game to the next level. So I want to talk about the expected, projected impact transfers from this latest transfer class and what element, what skill do they need to refine, cultivate, add to their game to ultimately become that NFL caliber product, or to reach their ceiling as a player potentially, or to be have the most positive impact they can have on the Texas roster. So we can start obviously with what has already become kind of a mythological kind of figure at Texas, Cam Coleman, just with some of the practice clips that have been thrown out there. So Cam Coleman's a guy that's projected by a lot of people to be a first round pick. Where do you think Cam Coleman needs to improve the most to take his game to the next level?
I think probably, there's really two areas. One, it's more of he just needs more reps at it because he showed in a small sample he was good at Auburn. What's he like in the red zone? Because you start looking at his contested catch rates and just his ability to make plays on 50-50 balls in the red zone. I think he can do it right. It's just we know the Auburn quarterback situation was what it was, and it should be much better playing with Arch Manning at Texas. I think the other thing too, and again, it's just something that he wasn't asked to do a lot. The screen game and the short game. I think he had one target behind the line of scrimmage at Auburn last year. That increase, it was close to I forget the target number, but in terms of that 0 to 9 yard range. But again, that's not a lot of the swing screens and the stuff that's in Sark's offense. I just think the more things he can do, and obviously blocking is a big part of it, but for him, Rod, I think the more things he can do to make it less predictable, make him that much harder to defend by expanding the scope of his game, the better off he's going to be and the better off this offense will be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's about his expanded route tree, and we know what he can do down the field. We talked about his contested catchability. There's probably nobody in the country, and that includes Jeremiah Smith, who's better in deep contested catches than Cam Coleman. But I'm with you. The yak in his game has been lacking. The yak is lacking. All right. 2.6 yards after the catch per reception. That is, that to me shouldn't be an indictment on his athleticism, more an indictment on Auburn's offense. He needs easier schemed open completions. That's what Sark is really good at. So I'm with you. You go look at, X-Man. He was at 7.3 yards after the catch per reception in his career. Wingo was already over. He was at 8. In his yards after the catch per reception his career. Matthew Golden was over 5. So I think that number will improve, and I'm with you. That's the part of his game where I think NFL scouts want to see if it is a part of his game. You don't know right now. Hasn't really been showcased. I think it will be for Texas. All right, so good point there. Let's move on. Let's talk about some of the other members of this transfer portal class. Let's talk about Michael Masunas. I'm already ready to call him Mike. Let's talk about Michael Masunas because Sark actually has been really complimentary of the tight ends. In period, this tight end room, Michael Masunas being the biggest, impact player that has been acquired for this tight end position. What are your thoughts about where he needs to improve the most?
Do you want to call him Mike just because you want to go back and give stick it to John Bianco and Mac Brown one more time for the Roderick thing back in?
I don't know why I wanted to call him Mike. Nobody's done that. I mean, he's not a Mike. He's a Michael.
Nobody really called you Rod. You just showed up one day and the roster didn't say Roderick anymore. It just said Rod.
That is fair. That is fair. Yeah. And I will say it was for the best. So give John Bianchi and Max some props.
Yeah. So sometimes you don't have a say in when your name gets shortened. No, Rod, with Masunas, it's just, hey, he's got to be able to pose a threat catching the football. The two guys that I've said, hey, could he be for this offense what Andrew Beck and Jeff Swaim were? At the very least, what could Andrew Beck and Jeff Swaim do when they were not destroying guys on the edge or putting a body on people? If they were open and the window was there, they could catch the ball. Rod, that's really all I'm asking Michael Masunas to do. I'm not asking him to be Gunnar Helm or Jatavian Sanders. Just, hey, if you've got a good matchup and Arch throws an on-target pass, can you catch it more often than not? I've got the bar set pretty low for Masunas from that standpoint because if he's that good of a blocker, the way Sark has talked about him potentially being, not just what we assume, but I mean, this is Sark talking about how good he is blocking from gapping out, then everything else will be gravy if he's that good of a blocker.
Totally agree with you on that too. He was actually graded like their best zone blocker in a small sample size in 2024, but Sark seems to be very complimentary of him as a blocker. He only had like 7 total targets his first 2 years, and then last year got a lot more targets. Had a 90% catch rate. He's got to show in this offense that he can be a down the field threat and a capable receiver. So no doubt about it. Moving on with this group, let's talk about. We're kind of going to be moving all across here. Let's try to stay on the offensive side of the ball since we're there. How about the offensive line? Let's talk about Melvin Siani. Obviously, coming in out of Wake Forest, a lot of people are expecting this guy to be not only an impact player and a starter for you, but also become an NFL player and show that he's got that kind of ceiling. What does he need to improve on?
Yeah, by the way, on Masunas, I think last year, 8.3 yards average depth of target. So, again, to your point, like the downfield game, can he give you some of that? That would be something that he can add to his skill set. With Siani, Rod, it's got to be a run blocker. Now, you look at PFF run blocking grades, like they are what they are. But basically, Melvin Siani's been, at best, like an average run blocker. PFF considers any grade 70 or above. A 70 is above average. Melvin Siani last year as a run blocker, he was at a 67 was his run blocking grade. 7 penalties as a run blocker. So that's another thing. That's when you're, especially in a wide zone scheme where you're having to reach guys, it can be real easy for you to maybe move your hand outside and grab a shoulder pad, and that's when you get called for holding. So I think limiting the penalties, getting real familiar with the Texas run game scheme and just being a better run blocker. But I could almost live, Rod, with the average, above average run blocking grade if you just cut down on those penalties. You can't be 7 penalties. I mean, you're starting to get into the territory where you're venturing closer to 1 per game, which you can't have that. That 1 penalty could be you negate an explosive run or an RPO pass that goes for a long yard. So I just think really cutting down on the penalties is something Siani can do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wrote down as well. The 7 penalties were big and it definitely stood out. Staying on the offensive line, let's look at Dylan Sakorski, who's Sark admitted was getting some reps not at guard, but also at center of Texas. So hopefully he can build up the depth on that offensive line. Looking at him, what are your thoughts about where he can improve the most? Young player, obviously, but where can he improve the most already?
My big thing for Sakorski is, Rod, they got to find the target, like the right weight for him, because he played his listed weight at Oregon State. He's at 322. He shows up for spring ball, and on that initial roster, he's listed at 344. So, and I think DJ Campbell was a really good example of, and look, Sakorski may be a better player at 340. I don't know, but you look at DJ Campbell, I think we all agree DJ Campbell was a much better player at 321 as opposed to the 343 he was listed at earlier in his career. So I think for Sakorski, especially if you're going to cross-train him at center, got to find a weight where he feels comfortable and he can still move and have some power in the run game. So all 3 of those things, you just got to find the right target weight for him. I think it's not so much a skill set thing, Rod. You just got to make sure the weight with him is where you want it and it's where he feels comfortable.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I agree with you about that too. And maybe that goes to my point. I was going to say consistency. You look at his game, he actually has some really good games. He's a young player, and they were early on in the season. And then you'd see, like games 5 and 6 on the schedule. He'd have a really good game, and then have another down game. The consistency, the baseline of consistency is what he's missing, which is what a lot of young players are missing. And maybe going to your point, that's all about, where he is physically, where they want his frame to be. And where he feels most comfortable. and where they think that you can maximize his talent the most. All right, let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. You got two weapons in the backfield. Let's start with Hollywood Smothers, and we'll go to Raleek Brown. What are your thoughts on where Hollywood Smothers can take his game to the next level?
This is less about anything kind of advanced metric-y or PFF related, and it's more of kind of the eye test. You watch some of the tape from NC State, Rod. Yeah. I just felt like they left a lot of meat on the bone with him in the passing game. Like it was a lot of check downs, a lot of, hey, pass block, and then you're going to leak out in the flat and be kind of a fourth target, a dump off option, whatever. I just feel like Sark can do more with him as a true route runner. So that's really where I want to see more of Hollywood Smothers at Texas, as opposed to what we saw at NC State, just using him more as a legit receiver, because he showed when he's got the ball in his hands, he can make things happen. If he can run routes, Rod, then now you've got two guys in the backfield, because Raleek Brown can do that. If you've got two guys that can be every down backs and are effective receivers, man, you're cooking with gasoline at that point for Sark.
Yep, I agree with you on that. And I'm going to go with pass blocking. Obviously, it's one of those things, like you said, it's not really a flashy talking point, but Smothers is a pass blocker. You brought the Pro Football Focus grades, 41 and 38 pass blocking grades for Smothers. You can get much better than that as a pass blocker. I think that's somewhere you can improve. And honestly, I'll probably say the same thing about Raleek Brown. I think he was a 48 pass blocker in 2025. But in 2024 and 2023, he was much better. I think he was like in the 70s or something. So whatever the reason for the change, I think for both of these backs, pass blocking, because I think Texas is going to be a team that ends up being a pass first team a lot of the times. The way they scare teams, they're going to lead with the pass, and then I think they'll close out games with the run. And if that's the case, then these two running backs, who are going to both be considered starters and featured, got to be really good at pass blocking, because Arch is the play.
And Derek Cooper may be your closer, Rod. So I think whichever one of these backs gets more run, it's going to your point. It's going to be the guy that's the more complete back, because we talk about it all the time, not just on this show, but on this channel. Trust is at the forefront of things Sark values. Can he trust you? He'll trust the more complete back over the guy that gives him the better home run ability.
I like that. That's a great point about the trust factor. All right, moving on here. We got both of those running backs already down. I guess on offense, we'll stay there. How about Sterling Burkhalter? I usually wouldn't have brought him up because I wasn't expecting him to be an impact player, but Sark's been very complimentary of the young man lately, talking about Sterling Burkhalter. What are your thoughts about him and where he can improve his game overall? Sark was, I would say, talking about how he's been making some plays out there in spring camp with obviously snaps available at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, and we talked about it on the channel too. Like I feel like this is a missed opportunity for Khalil Lockett. It's really unfortunate that he got hurt, because he would be the guy getting those snaps that Burkhalter's getting. I'll say this about Burkhalter, Rod. If he can emerge as someone Sark trusts and that Chris Jackson can trust, maybe he'll get some snaps. But if you're that far down the totem pole, in terms of, we know that circle of trust isn't very big.
Yeah,
Sterling Burkhalter better be an A+++ blocker if he's going to get snaps, because if you're that far down the totem pole in the pecking order when it comes to guys that are going to get targets, man, you whiff on a couple of blocks on screen passes, you're whatever little target share you might have gotten is going to go out the window. It's going to somebody else. So that's the one thing where I think Sterling Burkhalter really needs to be buttoned up. He can earn more targets and more snaps if he's a +++ blocker.
Oh, you just in my notes right here, I literally say you go look at looking at Pro Football Focus, their run blocking grade. Usually for wide receivers, you don't care much about it. But getting to your point, his best run blocking grade was as a freshman. And it got progressively worse. And he's a 5-year player. It's gotten progressively worse. He's at 39 run blocking grade in 2025, 62 his freshman year. So a lot of that could be, like I say, it's about effort, but hey, man, you got to, like you said, to crack that circle of trust, you want to want it really bad and carve out a role, and blocking is going to be a part of that with his frame and with Sark's screen game. Also, 4 penalties on run blocking. Got to improve on that.
The only wide receiver Sark has had, Rod, that you say wasn't like blocking wasn't his specialty was Xavier Worthy, and he's good enough with everything else he does to get away with it. Sterling Burkhalter, for everything he brings to the table, he's not Xavier Worthy. So you better be able to bring it as a blocker.
I remember AD Mitchell didn't like blocking really much. You could tell AD Mitchell, he'd get out there. You could tell he got yelled at and dog cussed a few times. And so he would try to put in more effort, but it was definitely not something that he really, really liked to do. Like Jay Witt liked blocking. Like Jay Witt literally liked it. That was something that brought him joy. And he would talk about it in meetings with scouts in the NFL, like, hey, I like blocking duo. And the Rams are like, hey, we like running duo. We might draft you. Like it's a different mentality. And I wonder if my man Sterling needs to change his mentality a little bit.
Matthew Golden did it. Matthew Golden did it. Saw Isaiah Bond at times stick his face in there. Parker Livingston last year. Emmett Mosley was a really good blocker.
Emmett Mosley is a good blocker. I agree with you on that too.
Unless you're going to be the fastest man in the history of the combine, you better be able to block for Sark. Otherwise, you ain't getting the ball.
True that. Yeah. True. Some tells me John Ross wasn't a great blocker either.
Right. I never looked at Dory Jackson's blocking tape, but I would imagine there ain't much there to look at.
Exactly. All right. I think we're done on offense. Let's jump to the defensive side of things, talk about some of these guys. All right. Let's start with, because this is a guy that's going to be tough. This is the toughest one, honestly. Where does Rasheed Biles need to add to his game or improve to take his game to the next level? Because his game, he's playing at a pretty high level right now.
Yeah.
So this was a tough one. Cam Coleman was easy because Auburn's offense sucked. Actually, I would say that Rasheed Biles has been showcased pretty well with Pitt, and they showed him as a playmaking linebacker.
Yeah, and well, when you play for a head coach like Pat Narduzzi, like that's a guy that knows what he's talking about when he's talking about defenses and putting really good defenses on the field. Narduzzi's been doing that for a long time, and it's weird how Pitt has kind of become this, kind of developmental program for the rest of the power conferences. Like, hey, Pat Narduzzi, you develop him, and then we'll just polish them and reap the fruits of your labor. It's really weird how that's happened, not just in Texas, but a lot of different schools have benefited from Pitt. But I think for Rasheed Biles, can I put my SEC homer hat on?
Do it.
It's just can he get used to playing the down to down, week to week physicality in the SEC? That's really, and I say that, Rod, because it's the only thing he hasn't proven he can do because he hasn't been in the league. So he's probably, he reminds me a lot of, I've made the comparison. There are different kinds of players, but when I look at Rasheed Biles, I see a lot of Jordan Hicks just because I don't see a lot of holes in his game. And when Jordan Hicks was done at Texas, I didn't see a lot of holes in his game. What was Jordan Hicks' big deal? He just got to stay healthy. And finally, lo and behold, he puts together a season where he's healthy start to finish, and he's an All-American. So, I think Rasheed Biles is in the same boat. It's just getting used to that week-to-week grind in the SEC, especially now that you're going a 9-game schedule in this league.
Yeah, that's great. But I feel like, the weakness in his game, often things with players like that, him and Jordan Hicks, things that they really can't control.
Yeah.
So, he's injury prone, but it's like, that's not really within his control. He keeps getting injured really bad.
Like what would be the biggest knock on Rasheed Biles? Well, I don't know how big he is. He might be slight of frame. Okay, he can't help that. Like the good Lord made him a certain way. Right? He is what he is. He's not going to be 6'3", 230 pounds tomorrow. He's just
he ain't going to become exactly right. He's maximizing everything God gave him. So I'm with you. I kind of have a similar take because I think we see the football world the same way. I said basically in SEC play, he's got some big games. Florida's going to be a big one for him. Any game where there's a big back and a physical O-line. And that's what the scouts are going to want to see from him because he is considered undersized. That's their little negative data point against him. He's undersized. So that game he's got against Jaden Baugh, who's a top 5 back in college football, but also one of the biggest backs in college football. Was he 6'1", 230?
Yeah.
That's what they're going to want to see. Don't let him do what Mike Washington did to my man Taft and then just run past. Don't let him do that to you because otherwise guys will be like, see, I told you. No.
I got another one for you for Rasheed Biles. The Mississippi State game, because with Taylor at quarterback, you're going to face a quarterback who is a really good +1 in the run game. And Jeff Levy's still in that old Art Briles, Baylor, veer and shoot where they like big offensive linemen and they want to run duo and get vertical. That's going to be, and we saw Mississippi State ran the ball against Texas last year. So that's one of those games, Rod, that could be a sneaky good test where, front office people might be watching film like, man, look at Rasheed Biles shedding blocks against Mississippi State. That's a really good game. So those are the kinds of games where he can get calloused up and be ready for the LSUs and the Tennessees of the world.
Totally agree. Another game to watch is randomly Arkansas. Arkansas will have a very experienced offensive line. Maybe expensive, but it's experienced. It'll be like a top 12 most experienced offensive lines in college football. And they got a big back. I don't know what Braylon Russell and how healthy he's going to be, but when he's healthy, was he like 235, something like that?
Sam Pittman always found like they converted Jaquindon Jackson to a running back once he they
like
always
Washington kid. He likes the big backs, dude.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to be with the coaching change, and I don't know how expensive that offensive line is going to be, Rod. I think Cal's getting most of the Walmart and Tyson money to build a roster at Arkansas.
That is fair. That's a great point. All right, moving on. Let's stay on the front. Let's go with Ian Gerrod, affectionately named Ian Gerfridge by members of the OTF fam. What does Ian Gerrod have to show? What does he have to add to his game? What does he have to show this season to take his game to the next level and show that he's well-rounded enough for the league?
Honestly, I know we just talked about Biles and kind of like what do you find? Like what does Cam Coleman really need to improve? Ian Gerrard's the toughest one for me, Rod, because he's just really good at what he does.
He is.
So I'm not expecting him to suddenly like develop this array of pass rush moves and be a guy that like can push the pocket. Just be great. He's the perfect guy on this roster. If he is great at doing his job, the Texas defense will be much better for it. So just be great at doing his job.
I think he already, and I agree with you. I think he already, what is he down to now? Because he was at like 380 something at Arkansas, whatever he was to that.
I think once guys get to 350, like just put the plus next to it, because like at that point, like 355, you're 372. Like what is it? What does it matter at that point? You're splitting hairs at that point.
No, exactly. I think, but on the Texas, I believe for Texas, they're trying to get him down. I believe they had him. I don't know. Some say 370, 360. Whatever he's doing now to get down, like you said, to 360, 350, whatever, 350 plus. All right. That's going to help his game. He's already, I love giving this stat because it's an amazing stat. He's the only D tackle I could find in the country last season who played at least 460 snaps at more than 350 pounds. Like he's the most durable. He's the biggest durable athlete in college football, arguably. In terms of, and well-conditioned, I should say, well-conditioned too, because there's a lot of wear and tear, but also to play that many snaps. So I want to see, and I'm going to go try to track this actually and see how many of those were first and how many passing downs he played.
Yeah.
How many passing downs will you trust Ian Gerrod to play? And not that he'll be in, because you want to take him out on those downs if that's not his strength, but teams might try to get him in on situations like that and keep him in there in situations like that. So that would probably be the only thing they improve on, just show that, hey, on a passing down, I'm not a liability. But other than that, I'm with you. I think he is really good at what he does. And that's all Texas needs from him.
If this were baseball, he'd be the situational left-hander with the funky release. Like, well, do you need to change? Like, no, don't change anything. Like, just leave him alone. He's going to come in the sixth inning, and he's going to win a matchup and get his out, and he's going back to the bullpen. Like, just leave him alone. Just let him cook.
Yep, let him cook. I like that. Yeah, well, Ian Gerrod probably can cook. Let's be honest. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Bo Masco. And this was pretty easy for me, too, because I'm not going to say I predicted this, but Blackstrom is I did a pretty good job of calling my shot on this, at least based on what we've heard. For me, for Bo Masco, it was simple. He has to show that he's got some ball hawk in him and show that he's got some ball hawking ability. And I'll tell you, from what I'm hearing that he's making some plays on the football. I heard he's got a few interceptions already this spring. I believe it was Ryan Wingo that said, hey, man, this guy's giving me hell out there. He was a ball hawk in high school. And go look at his last 2 years in high school. I mean, he had double-digit interceptions. Guy was having pick sixes, but you didn't see that at Rutgers. And I think it was because more of the talent around him. Now that he's got more talent around him, I think Masco's going to become a ball hawk. Prediction.
I like the fact, too, that Ryan Wingo said he's a technician, like more of a technician. He's starting to play with technique. You know this, Rod. Will Muschamp is from the It's the Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, Nick Saban tree, and Kirby Smart's a part of that too. What do all those guys have in common when it comes to secondary? Man, if you can't play the ball in the air, you can't play for those guys. So, yeah, to your point, that's exactly what he needs to work on.
Yeah, and I hear that he's doing a really good job of it so far. All right, well, before we round things out, how about a couple of linebackers that may end up playing a bigger role than we thought? Justin Cryer coming in from Florida State. Sark mentioned him among the pleasant surprises. What do you think Justin Cryer needs to improve on? Because there's a chance that he ends up making an impact this year. Really young linebacking core, but he's got a specific role as one of your bigger linebackers. We're just talking about how your linebackers are a bit undersized. What about Cryer?
First and second down, B gap to B gap thumper. Like that's where Justin Cryer needs to be really good. I think what he can work on, can he be kind of similar to what you said about Ian Gerrod, Rod? Can he be passable enough as a coverage guy to where if you get stuck with him on the field on third down, you're not freaking out and burning a timeout? Like that's really where Justin Cryer can go. He's gonna his snaps. I imagine his role is going to be similar, similar to what David Benda did in 2024, where based on the opponent, he may play a lot or he may not play hardly at all, depending on if you're playing a team that really likes to spread it out and throw the football. So I just think, the first and second down, B gap to B gap stuff, that's where he needs to be really good, but just make yourself competent enough and passable enough as a coverage guy to where Will Muschamp doesn't feel like I got to burn a timeout to get Cryer off the field because they just tempoed us.
Love that thought. And I'll just add 14% missed tackle rate last season. Want to get that down to single digits if you're a linebacker. No doubt about that. Didn't mention Marcus Boswell, but coverage is probably his liability as a player coming in. All right, let's thank our sponsor, Laura Baker, before we end things. Football Theory brought to you by accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but a longtime Austin real estate expert. So give her a shout today. 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. Or you can reach out at laura@andyallenteam.com. That's laura@andyallenteam.com. Thank you very much to Laura Baker and her team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. And thank you out there for watching and for listening. Thank you, Jeff, for all the great insight and expertise. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for twisting and tweaking the dials. And for Jeff and for Matthew and for accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker, I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em home.
Hey guys, Blake Monroe here from Coffee and Football. YouTube thinks that you're going to like this video right here. And if the algorithm knows ball, it's a good one. So go check it out. And then don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button.